Who that nation? How you doing? Come on in. Take a seat. Sit back. Relax. Put your feet up. Grab a drink. And let's talk Saints football. Y'all know what time it is. Time to keep it real. Let's go. It is Falcons Saints week, baby. Hate week, but it's love. The team you love to hate. It is that time. It is that week. You see my brothers here. Carlos is in the house tonight, hosting it with your boy Dolph. Carlos, introduce yourself to the family members who may not know who you are.
Y'all know what it is, man. This is Carlos Clayton and my homegirl PJ. We are live, you guys. We are the co-hosts of Uneducated Sports Talk, but also dope friends with Keepin Who That Sports Podcast, man. And we are honored once again to be part of this stream, man. So what's up, my brother? Good to see you.
What's up? Nice to see you. Listen, family. We have a special guest coming on tonight. This gentleman here, he's a native of Atlanta. He's been in the game for over 20 years. He's been a director of scouting at scouting.com. He's been the manager editor at 247 Sports, vice president of content creations at Sports Illustrated. And we're going to let him tell you the rest because it's too long for me to keep going. We'll be here all night. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome the one and only Mr. Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing?
Dolph, I'm doing well, and that's just a really nice way of saying, damn, this dude's old.
Hey, I ain't that far behind you, man.
I got some ways to go, y'all. Calm down.
You know, young bucks, you know. But anyway, look, Scott, again, thank you for being here, man. We appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. And look, we're going to have some fun tonight. Family members are coming in. I see the comment section is popping. You know what I'm saying? Hey, family, y'all already know the doors are not open. So come on in. All right, quick holler out who's in the house right now. St. John the Butler, how you doing? I see you. Come on in. Archangel, I see you. Come on in. Rise up, baby. I hear you, baby. Who that? Come on, I love it. That's what I'm talking about, baby. All right. Who else in the house? Morgan, how you doing? Corey Carter, how you doing? Come on in. Who else is in the house? Uh-oh, my brother. Slim South, how you doing? Come on in. And my brother, he wear red and black. But for 3 hours Sunday, he ain't my brother. Fred Swarm, how you doing? Come on in. Thank you for being here, my brother. And my brother, Eric Howard. Listen, everybody in the chat, thank y'all for being here, family. Tonight, Mr. Scott Kennedy is here. He family now. So listen, we're going to show him a good time. We're going to have fun. We're going to pick his brain, get his thoughts, not only on the Falcons and Saints, but we're going to go around the NFL and get his thoughts. So with that being said, Scott, man, let's get to it, man. Two dysfunctional organizations. Two teams that came into this season with high aspirations and both have failed miserably. But
yeah, you can say failed miserably. You know, the records overall are like, okay, so you're just wallowing in mediocrity. But anybody watching these two teams knows the schedule. They know the teams you've been playing. It's like, wait a minute, how come the Falcons and Saints have every tiebreaker over every team they've played? Because their schedule is awful. It's you could be a mediocre team, a team that is actually an average team between these two with the Saints schedule and the Falcons schedule is knocking on the door of 13-4. They might still get their doors blown off in the first round. I'm not saying they're any good, but we can go through, and I'm not going to bore Saints fans. You guys know what it's like. I'm not going to go through and look at all of these teams, the quarterbacks you happen to play as their first times out there. Bryce Young losing to the Panthers out there, losing to Washington at home. I just looked at a recent power rankings. The Falcons lost to 30, 31, and 32. I mean, and they're sitting there at 7 and with a chance to go 8 and 9. You know, you win those games, and again, you're 10-6 with a chance to go 11-6. You're still not worth a damn. But it's really a travesty how poor. I'm not going to say I don't know the Saints as well, but I know the expectations were higher than you've gotten.
Right.
If you finish 9-8, it's okay. But the Falcons are staring 7-10 in the face for the third straight year, and this was a year where they dumped a bunch of money and had all their picks in place and ready to make a run. Oh, we got our quarterback too. We didn't need to take a quarterback when we started Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. We'll just find one.
Right. I thought Desmond Ridder was the next Drew Brees for a lot of Falcon fans was saying this summer.
No. What the Falcons fans were saying is like, listen, all you have to do is just not be awful. I mean, the expectations are pretty low. Even if you're average, if this team has average quarterback play, and I'm not putting it all on the quarterbacks because Arthur Smith, the head coach, has something to say about this. He doesn't get out of this without blame.
Right.
If you get average quarterback play, I'm talking 15-20. This team has walked away with the NFC South. And that's not saying much. I mean, it's a low bar, right? It's a low bar. But this team has walked away, is sitting there at 12-5. Right. And I can go through the schedule for you, and you'd be like, yeah, oh, yeah, should have won that one too. Yeah, what about that one? But they didn't get average quarterback. They got bottom 5 quarterback play.
Right. And we paid $150 million for ours, and as of lately, and Corey said, you talking Derek Carr. I mean, listen. Go ahead.
No. You're looking at like when we say both teams had high aspirations. I don't think the Falcons had, outside of the players themselves and the organization itself, I don't think they had like super high aspirations because there's no quarterback that's this quote unquote savior. We actually paid the guy 4-year, $150 million to be that guy, because according to Saints fans, including myself, we were just a quarterback away from getting to the promised land. So as far as the Falcons, in my opinion, I think they've kind of overachieved a little bit, albeit though both schedules are sort of putrid, as we would say these days. And you're right, Scott, any decent team would have blown this schedule crazy. 13-4, like you said, 12-5, whatever. We're knocking on mediocrity with a bad schedule. I know for sure the Saints fans, we thought we had a team that can go at least 11-12 wins for the year. Falcons fans, I don't know. I mean, I'm not deep in the Falcons community, but I can't see no one saying, man, this is a 10-7, 11-6 kind of squad. So I thought it was like they're right there. The more disappointing team, in my opinion, the Saints.
Listen. There's a phrase I like to use when prognosticating and using predictions, and say I might be biased. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. Right. You're biased. You're wrong. That's the Saints coming out at you right now. Sheesh. Now, the national media is saying this team cannot win with Desmond Ridder as its quarterback. Those in Atlanta are saying this is the third year. You've survived salary cap hell. You just put $100 million into your defense. You've got 3 for the first time ever, because most teams don't pick top 10 3 years in a row because they've usually gotten out of it by then. First time ever, you've taken a tight end, a wide receiver, and a running back. You've got Mr. Dependable left tackle. You just put a second round pick in your left guard. You've got a Pro Football Focus top 5 center. You've got arguably the best offensive lineman in the game at right guard. Most people outside of Atlanta wouldn't really understand that because most people outside of Atlanta don't watch Chris Lindstrom. Chris Lindstrom's phenomenal. He's one of those guys that doesn't get the flowers he deserves because he plays for a crappy team. Right tackle, McGlinchey was a top 10 Pro Football Focus tackle last year. There's the offense. Now they go out and put $100 million into their defense. Okay, it's time. Let's go to work. What happened? They got worse. That offense got worse. This was a top 15 scoring offense last year, believe it or not. Ritter played 4 games. He looked okay. Just don't F it up.
Right.
Get another field goal a game. Make the defense go from bottom 25 into maybe into the teens or so, low teens. And this is a team with this schedule that should be 10 wins minimum. I said 10-7 at the beginning of the year, and I said 2-15 last year. So that's how much better this team should have been. That they are not is an indictment on the failure that Arthur Smith has had with this offense.
Gotcha. So, speaking about expectations, down here, we definitely did not expect the Saints to be where they are now, 8-8, which is an improvement. No, a lot of y'all don't want to hear it, but it's an improvement over last year, 7-10. Dennis Allen, this past Sunday, just won the most games as he has ever in his head coaching career. Has the opportunity this Sunday to get his first win this season. Is that progress? One may say so by looking at the improvement of the record and say yes. But if you follow this team the entire year, you've been watching the inconsistency of this team. Like we like to say, they're consistently inconsistent. You get a team that showed up, played their best overall game this past Sunday against Tampa Bay. And you have Who Dat Nation sitting there. Where was this team all year? Where was this team in the fourth quarter against Green Bay? Because the reason the Saints have not clinched a playoff spot today is because of that collapse in the fourth quarter against Green Bay. They close out that game. They're now sitting here 9-7 and quite possibly already have clinched the NFC South. But instead, they're on major life support. They're throwing up Hail Marys. They're getting voodoo dolls and doing anything they can to try to backdoor their way into the playoff, which, by the way, Who Dat Nation, it ain't going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see Seattle and Green Bay both losing, and I see there's no way that I can sit here right now and say I expect the Carolina Panthers to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the best we can hope for is 9-8.
Carolina Panthers goose is cooked. They're just cooked.
Right. And the owner, well, we'll get to that later. I don't know what to say about that. But speaking of Atlanta, you mentioned 3 top 10 picks in the last 3 years. Arguably skill position, you guys are loaded, man. B. John Robinson. I love London. You got the tight end, Pitts. You got Pitts. You mentioned the asset that they have put into the offensive line. Then you guys are coach. You get Ron Nielsen from here. He comes over as defensive coordinator. David Onyemata comes over. Caden Ellis comes over. And what has the impact of both Onyemata and Caden Ellis been to the Falcons defense?
Terry Fontenot, who came over from the Saints, is pretty much going to get a pass for any of the problems they've had, because other than the quarterback position, most of the moves that he has made, and they do them with Arthur Smith, so he might get a little bit more of a chance. He might be able to throw his quarterback and his offensive coordinator by name only under the bus and get another year, but Falcons fans don't want that. But Terry Fontenot, when you went out and you start looking at the guys they brought in on defense and the money they spent, rather than spend it on a bunch of money on 1 or 2 guys, they spread it out for the most part. And the thing is, on the defensive side of the ball, almost every single one of those guys hit. Now, the bar was really low. I think in 2021, the first year that they were there, I said there might be 4 NFL players on either side of the ball. That's it. 4, where I would say that aren't just replacement level 1-year guys trying to earn a job in the NFL for 1 more year. This year, you brought in David Onyemata, who's been really good. He's battled injury the last couple of weeks, but he was really good. And damn, when he was next to Grady Jarrett, that was really good. Grady Jarrett's, again, one of those guys like Chris Lindstrom who doesn't get the flowers he deserves because he plays for a crappy team. Grady Jarrett's a beast. Caden Ellis was brought in to help put pressure on the quarterback, but the Falcons lost one of their inside linebackers real early in the season, and he had to take a step back and play more of a traditional inside linebacker role. The last third of the season, he's starting to make splash plays. He's looked really good. They brought in Calais Campbell, 36, 37-year-old, 16 years in the league, and just keeps getting better as the season goes on. Bud Dupree at edge has been solid. He's a workman-like, set the edge, do your job, run defender guy. And then Jesse Bates has arguably been the best free agent signing in the NFL. I like him and Samson Ebukam up at Indianapolis as arguably the AFC and NFC. And I might be forgetting somebody, but I keep an eye on those teams, and I can't think of anybody that's had, for the money, for the impact. Jesse Bates has a really good chance of being first-team All-Pro this year for a bad team. So, that tells you something about how good he's been. So Terry Fontenot and Ryan Nielsen. And then Ryan Nielsen comes in and has all those guys playing together as a unit quickly, which has been really impressive. Now, they still lack that alpha dog pass rusher. So he has to do it with pressure and smoke and mirrors sometimes. And that's why this team's ceiling was limited, because a good quarterback can dice them up. I don't care how good you are on the back end. I could have a Pro Bowler in AJ Terrell. I could have All-Pro at Jesse Bates. But you give me a good quarterback, 4 seconds to throw the ball, he's going to beat you. So the ceiling on this defense was limited, but he's done a really, really good job with the Falcons defense this year.
And right now, the Falcons have the 11th ranked total defense in the NFL. You guys are 8th in pass defense, only giving up 200 yards a game, and have only surrendered 20 touchdowns down through the air. The one area I think you guys have been lacking, just like the Saints, has been pass rush. Mm-hmm. So basically, the secondary has been holding things up for the Falcons, and just like the Saints. And it's kind of, we sit here and it's almost like we talking about the same team, and that's crazy. But red zone defense, the Falcons have been really good in the red zone this year. Number 3, with only giving up like 42.6% scoring in the red zone. What would you contribute to that? It would be the new scheme, or just the influx of new talent?
It's a lot of the talent, and again, Ryan Nielsen putting those guys together, because it's a bend but don't break, because you can't afford to give up the big play. So he's not sending a bunch of guys on pressure, and the front 4 just doesn't get there. They just don't. Right. So when they're getting sacks, they're getting them bringing 5 or more guys, but they don't do that between the 20s, because I don't want to get beat. I don't want to play high risk, high reward. And on the back end, they've been pretty good. Again, AJ Terrell is a really good corner. Yes. Jesse Bates has come up with some very key turnovers, including early on against Derek Carr in the New Orleans Saints, which was one of the turning points in that game. So y'all know how good Jesse Bates has been this year. He's been playing like that all season. That wasn't just a one-off. He's been good. So when it gets down into tighter areas, they're tougher to beat, because they're really good in coverage. And then you can afford to send a blitz and put a little more pressure on the quarterback then.
Right. So let's flip to the offensive side of the ball. Pitts, London, B. Jones, Algier, young, exciting, very good offensive line. But the one thing that you guys are missing is the head of the snake, the quarterback. Everything was Ritter this summer. Ritter had a good college career. He's a very good college quarterback. He showed promise last year. But to put all your eggs in that basket when you possibly could have went out, I don't know if this is fact or not. Let me know if it is. Did the Falcons at any time this past summer have an opportunity to get in on Lamar Jackson?
No,
thank you.
Flat out no. I've called that media, multi-stream, main media, whatever you want to call them, big media, clickbait BS. That was baloney.
Gotcha.
It would have cost the Falcons. Let's see. I mean, just look at what the Ravens gave him. Okay. The Ravens gave him about $220 million guaranteed over 5 years. That's without having to match a contract offer. So if I'm going to make sure that Baltimore doesn't match a deal, I have to beat that deal significantly.
Right.
And then I have to send them 2 first-round draft picks. Baltimore said, go out there and negotiate your contract if you want to. We'll sit back, let them do the hard work for us, and then we'll just match it. We'll just match it. And all the teams said, we're not doing that. We're not going to do the work for you. But Lamar Jackson is not available. He's not available.
Right.
We're not going to waste our time. So I will get all over the Falcons for a lot of things. No problem. But Lamar Jackson was a pipe dream. That was just, like I said, media clickbait BS. That was never, ever, ever going to happen. He was a Baltimore Raven.
Thank you. Because, the room was flying saying that this team had a chance, that team had a chance, but I'm glad you cleared that up. And there's an old saying, and it's true. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one.
You have one, right?
And right now,
the thing. Last year was a dead year. The Falcons weren't going anywhere. They didn't have the roster to try and do something like that. So why not play? And this is what made Falcons fans mad. Why not play Desmond Ridder earlier? Marcus Mariota had a couple decent games. I think he was NFC Player of the Week one week, and then he's butt fumbling the next week. But this team's not going anywhere. If Desmond Ridder is going to be your quarterback of the future, you got to get him some time. So why wait until the last 4 games of the season? And here's the one that really gets Falcons fans. Why does he not take a snap? I think he played 1 series. Why does he not get any time in the preseason? This man needs reps.
Facts.
He needs reps. And you're going to go in and you're going to be arrogant enough to tell me that my starting quarterback, who's got 4 games under his belt and lacks experience, is just ready to go out there and be a game manager and win games for you? That is a failure. That is a fireable offense.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. As far as the NFL, as far as the off-season training camp practice, now with only 3 preseason games, is that hurting the game of football as far as the development of young quarterbacks? I feel it's hurting kids who really needed that full preseason game to make a team, who may have got off to a slow start in camp, maybe by play or injury. What's your thoughts on that?
It's kind of weird, isn't it? That football is really the only sport that is so dangerous that you don't want to play it.
Right.
It's like you have spring training for basketball, you got preseason for NBA, you've got every other sport. You go out there and you play warm-up games.
Right.
Except the NFL. And if it doesn't mean anything, by God, as a college guy, I'm not playing in a bowl game. Are you joking? I could get hurt. It's so dangerous to me. And it doesn't mean I'm soft, but that bothers me a little bit. I feel a little guilty about that we love the sport so much, because it is an awesome sport, but my God, is it dangerous? And it's really bad for the health of these guys. My question ends up being, will there ever be a shift away from I'm going to put 30% of my salary cap into my franchise quarterback, and I'm going to spread it around a little bit like Kyle Shanahan's doing, and build a quarterback-proof offense that's so good that I don't have to pay that guy $50 million. I'd be better off with 2 guys making 20.
Gotcha.
And do that. So I wonder if there ends up ever being a shift in that direction, because when you put a third of your resources into one guy, who's not playing a backup quarterback this year? There's just a handful of teams that haven't had injuries at the quarterback position. So I just wonder if you spread it out a little bit more and you have to go with a little bit more depth. That said, I think the NIL and paying the college players will actually be good for the game.
Okay.
Because quarterbacks will be longer, they'll be older, they'll be more mature when they come out. I think they'll be more ready to contribute when called upon as 23, 24-year-old grown men coming into the league.
Right. Now, one more question as far as dealing with the league. Help me to understand this. There are 53 players that make a roster. Why on game day are they only allowed to dress 46 players?
I don't know.
What is the? I don't understand.
I think it's 48.
Yeah.
And then you're allowed to have your 49th be your inactive quarterback, provided you're on
Emergency. Okay.
53. But I think part of that, why can't you dress all 53? I don't know. But part of the reason you're only allowed to have 53 active is for league parity. It's for forced parity. So I can't. I've got the best general manager in the league, and I've got the money to do it. I can't hoard the talent. I can't take 75 guys and stash them where these 25 aren't really playing, where they could play somewhere else. So I like the practice squads. So in essence, I kind of think of it almost as a 70-man roster, where the 16 guys you can sign. You can sign somebody. The Saints could sign somebody off the practice squad on Monday and play them against the Falcons. I think that's kind of cool. But it's not like college where you've got 85 scholarships and those are your 85 for the year. You can run 200 guys through your roster over the course of a season between the waves and cuts, etc.
Well, what I'm getting at is I understand the 53, and I'm not saying get rid of the practice squad. On the active roster, not counting the practice squad, 53. If I got 53 players who made my active roster on game day, if I got 53 healthy players, why must I make 4 or 5 of those players inactive for a game when I got a whole practice squad of 16 inactives?
Because there were only 48 seats on the bus. There's only 48 locker rooms, 48 lockers. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's it's kind of silly.
Yeah, for a sport so dangerous, you want more active players in any given day, any given game, because you just never know. We've seen plenty of games now where there's been not one but 2 quarterbacks or 2 people from the same position get hurt in the same game, and now you're like,
how about your lineman?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're down to an emergency right tackle because 2 guys go down.
Right. And then I don't know. I think it's kind of foolish, but I would assume they make changes to that pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you've got 53 active, why can't you have? Let me see, 53 active.
Thank you. And the fact that there's been so many injuries this year to big names, small names, whatever, average guys. But it's been so many this year, and it's almost like it's eye-opening. We got to get, especially when you see the quarterback play. From these, like almost 60% of the teams are like having backup quarterbacks now. Every week is like 9 games, backup versus backup. So you want to have these guys, more players in there to team ready, man, because this is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, and J-Rock has a good comment. He says the active roster should be expanded to 60. If you're going to expand the regular season, why not expand the roster?
Thank you.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it makes sense. If it doesn't,
I do like the way they've handled the practice squads have given the teams more flexibility, which I like. You can flex the guy up 3 times, and then you've got to either release him or sign him. And then if you can't just have him squirreled away on your practice squad, he's active to be signed by someone else. So I do like the way they've done that. I'm for player flexibility, and especially in the NFL with non-guaranteed contracts.
Yes.
The most dangerous game has the worst players union.
Yes.
Right.
So we can get into that on another day if you want to. But I'm pro labor when it comes to the monopoly of American sports.
Right. Dixon Way, I'm behind enemy lines. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. All right. Now, in the first meeting this season, the Falcons pretty much won the game at the line of scrimmage. And I think this week's game is going to come down to the line of scrimmage again. Whichever team is able to exert their will on both sides of the ball this Sunday, I think will have the better opportunity of walking out with a win. And turnovers are going to play a key. That one turnover, that pick 6 by Jesse Bates. And by the way, speaking of Jesse Bates, the man is having an outrageous season. He has 128 tackles, and he leads the Falcons with 6 intercepts. Now, that was money well spent.
Well spent.
That was money really well spent.
He has been amazing for Atlanta.
When you spend that kind of money, you hope to get that kind of return. You rarely do. I mean, the Falcons don't have a really good history of safeties. I can go through running backs. I grew up in the 80s. They had running backs. William Andrews, Gerald Riggs were two awesome players. They had running backs for years. Safeties, I'm like, man, when Keanu Neal's playing a couple good seasons, like, you know what? He might have been the best safety that the Falcons have ever had. Well, this is the best season that they've ever had from a Falcons. If he plays like this for even just 3 years, he'll be the best the safety that the Falcons have ever had in their history. He's been amazing, and they got him young. I think he's only 25 when they signed him, maybe 26. So you get him 6-7 years possibly that he ends up playing at a high level. Now they need another one. They spent a second-round pick in the Kyle Pitts draft on Richie Grant, and he has been a big-time disappointment for a second-round pick safety, especially when they traded out of the spot where they could have had Miami's Javon Holland, who's been a Pro Bowler 2 of his first 3 years in the league. Ouch.
Yeah, he's nice. He's nice. Now, let's talk about the Falcons offense. Loaded. Why are they ranked 22nd in the National Football League? Why is Bijan Robinson, I think, sometimes not being used properly?
That's the $1 million question.
Why? I think Arthur Smith is one of those guys that tries to show everybody how smart he is. This is a really simple game. If I'm bigger, faster, and stronger than you, I'm probably going to win in football. This is an athlete's game. You start hearing him spouting all this stuff about, well, that wasn't the look we wanted, or they showed that. Man, I don't care. You've got like the 4th highest paid offensive line. You got the number 8 pick sitting beside you. You got a 1,000-yard rookie who is a wrecking ball. Next to him. Run the ball. Dictate. But the thing is they've been so predictable when they run the ball. Oh, Bijan's in the game. They're running wide. Tyler Allgeier's in the game. They're going up the middle. And they haven't been able to back off safeties and linebackers at all because the passing game has been trash. So they're running into stacked fronts constantly. And if they can't run the ball, they can't win. And if they can't run the ball and turn the ball over, they're definitely not winning. And that's what's killed them on the road. Their road performances this year are why they are 7-8 or whatever they are now. What are they now? 7-9?
Yeah, 7-9.
7-10. Their road performances are just mind-boggling. I look at the Saints, and I look at some of this. I'm like, okay, let me check their L's. I'm like, at Packers, okay. At Green Bay, that's not an easy place to win. Buccaneers, divisional game. All right. It wasn't your best showing, but I can get to that. At Texans, on the road, and who the hell knew what C.J. Stroud was going to be this year?
Yes.
Jaguars, the beginning of the season, the Jaguars were one of the top 6 or 7 teams in the NFL. All right. At Vikings, you caught the Vikings in the middle of a 5-game winning streak in Minnesota. Road game at Atlanta, okay. And the Lions, who are going to be the number 3 seed and going to be a 12-win team probably.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that's a lot of those. I'm like, I get it. And if you finish 9-8, I see some progress. But then you do the same thing with the Falcons. At the beginning of the season, you say at Lions, okay, yeah, loss. Jaguars in London, yeah, okay. Commanders at home? Are you joking? At Titans? The Titans are picking in the top 10 again. The Vikings at home with Josh Dobbs, who just got off the MARTA train in the first quarter and came in to beat you. At Cardinals with Kyler Murray making his first start in a year. The Buccaneers at home after you bludgeoned them in Tampa. And then at Panthers, at Bears. Are you joking?
The Panthers was a tough one. That was tough.
Yeah. They win the Panthers game. All of a sudden, they're playing for the division.
Yeah.
You lose.
Exactly.
When you win that game against Carolina, I mean, things are looking obviously better.
You're playing for the division. You've got the tiebreaker. You're in first place. This game is for the division. They lose to the Panthers. You are fired.
And we're talking about all these weapons, and there's one person we haven't mentioned. He's going to probably go to the Hall of Fame as being the best return man in the history of the National Football League, up there with Devin Hester. Why in the hell does it seem as if Cordell Patterson has just vanished out this team's game plan? I mean, I understand Bijan and Algier.
You mentioned Bijan Robinson, okay? Bijan Robinson, okay, right off the fact, if you haven't looked at this, if you have, then forget it. We'll move on. How many yards from scrimmage is Bijan going to have this year? Just spit it out. Don't think about it. What's your first answer?
I'm going to say over 1,300 yards.
I'm going to say 980, whatever.
He's at about 1,350 right now and has a chance to hit 1,500 yards from scrimmage, okay?
That's way better.
So from a number 8 pick, I'm saying at the beginning of the season, I'm like, if you're going to have take a running back, he needs to have 1,500 yards from scrimmage and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. He's within shouting distance of that. You say, has he been used improperly? It's so hit and miss, just like the team. It's like he has a big game, he's got nothing. And he's so talented that it's almost like there's 0 5-yard runs. The nice 5-yard game. It's either a highlight reel or a 3-yard loss. So that's why the perception is that he hasn't been used, because there's no consistency there. Now, Cordero Patterson, people say, okay, if Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson are going to get all these touches and you're not extending drives with first downs, which you're not, then where are the touches for Cordero Patterson? Okay, well, that's an easy one. Thanks for asking. Van Jefferson was added around week 3 or week 4 from the LA Rams for a pick swap. Van Jefferson has almost as many, so because they've played less games, he's getting more snaps than Kyle Pitts. Van Jefferson has 10 catches for 88 yards. Van Jefferson is Pro Football Focus's 124th ranked receiver out of 125. That's where you get Cordero Patterson snaps. I'll drop him in the slot. I'll move him in with Bijan Robinson and drop him in the slot.
Right.
Get Van Jefferson off the field and you can get Cordero Patterson. I'm not saying more touches, but I can get him more snaps. Van Jefferson's got almost 400 more snaps than Cordero Patterson. Why? That's insanity.
Going back to Bijan Robinson, it's mind-boggling he has 1,300 plus scrimmage yards, and to be so underutilized, in my opinion. Do you think it was the early fumbles? Is Arthur Smith that kind of guy? When Robinson had those early fumbles, he's like a no-nonsense kind of head coach in his mind?
I don't think so. I don't think it's been talked about as much. Bijan has had some bad fumbles. Ritter has gotten chucked under the bus because of his turnovers, and frankly, he's had so many like TWPs, turnover-worthy plays. He could have double the turnovers. Bijan's had a couple pretty bad ones, and the other week that he had a fumble and then he wasn't seen again. And part of it is if I get into the 3rd and 4th quarter and I am running the ball, Tyler Algier, whoever's getting the ball, is going to succeed. Tyler Algier gets on one of those streaks where they'll give him the ball 13 times in a row. I think the big difference is I looked it up. It's like everybody says, well, I've said it. Get Ben Johnson down here from Detroit and see what he's doing with Sam Laporta. See what he's doing with St. Brown, Jared Goff, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs. And let's see what he can do with Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Drake London. The offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. So I looked it up. I was like, okay, how big a difference is it in yardage for the 2 big running backs up in Detroit versus the Atlanta Falcons? It was better in Detroit, no doubt about it. Their offense is overall better, but the big difference was the touchdowns. There were almost twice as many touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery as there are for Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. And if Bijan Robinson's got 1,350 from scrimmage and 15 touchdowns in front instead of 7, nobody's saying a word. But they're not getting in the end zone because he doesn't know how to scheme inside the red zone. We talked about why is Atlanta good in the red zone on defense? They clog things up. They don't know how to open things up. And that turnovers, and Desmond Ridder giving the ball away every time he gets inside the red zone hasn't helped either.
Right. And what I noticed from this past week's game against the Bears, that Heineke took off. It seemed like him using his legs was a big part of the game plan, or it was out of necessity. But looking at their last matchup with the Saints, and everybody knows what gives the Saints problems: mobile quarterbacks who can get out the pocket, who can extend plays. It's been Achilles' heels of this team for the last 3+ years, and it continued to be this year. They kind of rectified it the second time against Baker Mayfield in the first game against Tampa. Baker Mayfield was back there. I didn't know if he was Michael Vick or whatever, because he was keeping plays alive, running around, and he shined. But this past week, I know they kind of brought him back to reality. So this week here for Atlanta, Scott, in your opinion, to walk away with a victory this Sunday, what will it take?
0 turnovers. It will take and running the football. It's a pretty simple formula for the Atlanta Falcons. Don't turn the ball over and run the football. If they can't do that, they can't win. Now, if the Saints come out and play defense anywhere near like they did in Tampa, this is a 3-score game. What was it, 50 yards in the first half? Where did that pressure come from? Baker Mayfield was under duress constantly. Now, you look at the stats, that only comes away with only 2 sacks and 7 or 8 quarterback hits. Well, hell, that's because they only ran about 10 plays in the first half. It was 3 and out, fumble,
Right.
Interception. So, the numbers aren't necessarily there because they were turning them out. They were getting them off the field in a hurry. The Saints front 4, they were getting pressure with their front 4 pretty consistently. They weren't having to break pressure. If they can do that against the Falcons, this will not be a game. It will. And the thing is, we will know early. This Falcons team, pretty early if they're up for it or not. So what you see in the first quarter, okay, we're in for a dogfight. The Saints moved the ball against the Falcons in Atlanta. They turned the ball over. Turnovers killed the Saints.
Yeah, Taysom Hill,
and then they can grind you out. Then they got ahead of you, which they don't do on many teams. And then they got behind that big old offensive line and 3 really good running backs and could grind it out.
Right. And that pressure that you're asking about for the Saints this past week came from a player that the Saints drafted out of Wisconsin that they have been playing out of position for the duration of his Saints career. And only out of necessity, they put him at edge rusher. And Zach Bond has been that player that we saw at Wisconsin, that player that everyone thought he can be. And he, to me, these last few weeks has played himself into a very good contract.
Yeah, he's giving us a great pressure that we so desperately need right now because, you got guys like Cam Jordan, those guys, they're getting a little older in age. We needed that young pressure. And finally putting him at the edge position, just go after the quarterback, man. We've seen it in Wisconsin. They want to make him this outside linebacker going east and west, and he's a downhill kind of linebacker or edge rusher, and I'm glad that we finally got the memo of doing that.
I see. What do y'all think right now? And it could be one of those bittersweet things. It's like, as a rival, you don't want to lose. Falcons don't want to lose to the Saints, but if this is what it takes, they would rather lose to the Saints and then have Arthur Smith be fired after a 3rd consecutive 7-10 than win and have him come back. So if that's what it comes down to, like, no, Saints, please, we'll send you a Christmas card. So we talked about, going from 7-10 to 9-8. You appear to be going in the right direction in that way, but does it just delay the inevitable? Do you feel like Dennis Allen, if he's not gone this year, it's just a matter of time because he's not good enough? Or do you think, hey, I've seen flashes. I want to see what he can do next year. He deserves one more year. What are your thoughts on Dennis Allen?
I'm going to say one more year, obviously, because of we're just Jekyll and Hyde. But when it's been good, it's been okay. His stamp is defense, and sometimes that's been hit and miss for us, and that's our bread and butter over the last couple of years. But if we finish off 9-8, that's a 2-game improvement from last year. And it's almost like, well, we know we got him for at least one more year. Give him a chance to at least have that playoff run. If you can't get that playoff run for this year, then yeah, you kind of got to let him go. Maybe 4 years in a row or almost 4 years that we get nothing, no playoffs. And it's almost like Saints fans were spoiled for Drew Brees, right? It was just Drew Brees. He made everything look easy for us. And all of a sudden now, even we had Jameis for a while before his injury. He looked pretty good before his injury. But after that, it's been just downhill. And to even have – so a lot of folks were like, well, we got to get rid of Derek Carr. I'm like, if Dennis Allen is there, we not getting rid of Derek Carr at all because they're like 1 and 2 together. Like Dennis Allen is his whole reputation is going to be with Derek Carr for the remaining of this year and next year as well. And if we have another year like this, yes, best believe we will move away from Dennis Allen, and I'll be 100% with it.
Saints could have won.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott. Well, I was gonna say Saints could have won 7-10. Dennis Allen wasn't going nowhere. They are not getting rid of Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is entrenched at least for one more year. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to have wholesale changes on the offensive side of the ball, and don't be surprised if there are some changes on the defensive side of the ball also. And I'm talking about coaches. Pete Carmichael, the writings on the wall all last year, all this season. He has grossly underachieved as the offensive coordinator, as the main play caller. He has not used the abundance of weapons that he have. Alvin Kamara, you got Taysom Hill, you got one of the best young receivers in the league, and Chris Olave. You got a free agent gem in Rashid Shaheed, another young stud. And then you just went and drafted another young prospect in the 6th round in A.T. Perry, who's going to be good. So the nucleus is here. But I think where the Saints misjudged this team is the talent up front. The offensive line at the beginning of the season was horrible, bad, a dumpster fire.
Trevor Penning's been a big disappointment, hasn't he?
My thing with Trevor Penning is this year was Trevor Penning's rookie year to me. Last year he was hurt. He only played he started the last game of the season against Carolina, and he graded out pretty well. Now he started this season rough, no doubt about it. He was
getting better though. He was getting better.
But week by week, he was getting better. But then by him focusing on becoming a better pass blocker, the one thing that he does well was what? Run blocking. So they say that started to suffer. So what do? They shut him down. They take him out. Thus, you insert Andrews Pete. And by the way, everybody who wanted to get rid of Andrews Pete, when Andrews Pete was inserted back into that offensive line, he brought stability to that offensive line.
That's right.
But to me, Trevor Penning has been used as an scapegoat. Now, I've been told that they decided to shut him down and use this as his rookie year to let him sit back. But to me, you gave up assets to get this young man. You put him out there, you let him go through the fire to see what you got 2-3 years from now. He's not going to get better just taking mental reps. Yep. And what also has hurt the last few weeks, they haven't even been using him on the jumbo package. They've been bringing in the veteran Max Garcia or someone else. They're not even using them now. And one thing that cannot be said about this young man, he's not a locker room problem. He's not a bad apple. He's not.
Are you positive about that? I've seen Trevor Penning, and so have you.
Yeah. On the field, I love it. In the locker room, he good. So take me. I got inside
because you have to go through camp with those guys, and he's the most likely to have 5 guys code red him in the locker room too.
Hey, that's how you practice. But I like that. We need that. We need that.
I love it too.
But I just think they should, and this is a strike against this organization. You took this kid in the 1st round, and he's not developing. You got him sitting on the bench. So that's a strike against his organization. On the defense side of the ball, DeMario Davis started the season off slow. He was injured. But now these last few weeks, you see the DeMario Davis that we all have come accustomed to. He is looking good. Tyrann Mathieu. You got a lot of Who Dat Nation wanted to get rid of Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann's had another solid season. I think a lot of us were looking for the Honey Badger when he first came out of LSU. They were he's not that guy no more. He's a savvy veteran player who knows what to do, where to be. Some of his athletic skills have diminished a little, but he's still a very good athlete.
For the most part, I mean, both us, the Falcons and the Saints, I mean, we just had two little games where both offense and defense are clicking at the same time. Because if we have a good offensive showing, then the defense is not showing up. We have a great defensive scheme, the offense isn't showing up. So it's just like we just gotta get that right balance. And look, you're in week 18 now; it's way too late for it now. But it's almost like week 2 and week 3, we're like, okay, well, in 4 or 5 weeks we should be great, right? And then 4 or 5 weeks came through, and it's almost like we can't get it right together. So that just might be psychological thing. I don't know.
No, I can see with Dennis Allen, you go from this is your second year, you go 7-10, you move to 9-8. You're not getting rid of that guy. You're going to get a third year out of it,
Right?
and then after that, you make a decision. But he'll have one more year with Derek Carr. You can't afford to get rid of him next year.
No,
That would cap it. So they're married for one more year, and we'll see how it goes. If I'm the general manager, team president, owner, I'm gonna say we're going to do this one more year. You went from 7-10, you went to 9-8. Now you make the playoffs or you're toast, and we're gonna start over because your quarterback's gone too and you're fired, and we're gonna clean house. But I think you go one more year with this, and then see. And that might not be good enough for for Saints fans, but I think that's probably the most likely outcome.
Right. And Derek Carr came out yesterday and say he's willing to restructure his contract to help the team in any way to get better. And the Saints have already started clearing space for their cap by restructuring Marshawn Lattimore, saving about $13 million in salary. So listen, the Saints once again, and shout out to Ross Jackson. Like Ross said, the Saints are showing us already that next year they're going all in. Their Saints are going all in. And everybody who's all concerned, this cap, our cap. The Saints were just 3 years ago, $100 and something million over the cap, and they got under the cap. So you think they worry about 65 million or something? That's nothing. Some of y'all just be panicking for no reason, man.
No, but you start losing some of your depth in that case.
That's what has happened.
You start talking about, okay, yes, well, the cap's a myth. No, it's not, because the cap was a myth. David Onyemata and Caden Ellis wouldn't be wearing Falcons uniforms this year.
Right.
They'd still be Saints. So you start losing some of those guys, and it becomes very real when these guys get old and can't play. And that's what happened when you extend and restructure Matt Ryan 472 times, or Julio Jones and his glass hamstrings 17 times. And you end up with a $90 million dead cap hit because these guys can't play and or stay healthy, and they've got a huge dead cap hit. So that's the thing. Terry Fontenot has done a very, very good job of getting the Falcons back into financial flexibility with their team.
No, Mr.
Trey Hendrickson. Yep, there you go. I'm sure you guys can name more than I can. Those are two.
Shock you wrong. Trey Hendrickson was not a cap casualty. Trey Hendrickson was not a first-round draft pick that the Saints didn't want to be wrong on. They chose their first-round pick in Marcus Davenport over Trey Hendrickson. They could have signed Trey Hendrickson. They chose not to sign Trey Hendrickson because in their mind, he had did it only that 1 year. They had seen him the previous 3 years, and for 1 year he had did it, and they decided to stick with Marcus Davenport. Why? Because he was a first-round pick, and they didn't want him to be wrong about that pick. And by the way, they were wrong, and Minnesota picked him up, and he might have one tackle. I don't know.
Mike's wrong too.
Yeah. Trey Hendrickson why do I have him at Cincinnati as an edge? Who am I thinking of?
Yeah.
You're right. He was up in Cincinnati.
No, he leads the league right now.
Okay, maybe I misheard. I was thinking of my SW Lion or Detroit Lions fan. He comes in on and joins our chats too over on my channel. He was saying, I don't really understand some of the shtick that Derek Carr gets. He's a decent quarterback. You don't want decent for $100 million guaranteed. That's the problem. And you saw it with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan had the highest cap hit in the league, and he was down to decent. So when you've got a guy on a 2-year, $100 million contract with a team option, because that's what it boils down to, right, you can move on from him in year 3. You got $100 million guaranteed across 2 years. You don't want decent. You don't need decent. I need a guy that can carry my team. I need something better than decent. So he's being judged against his contract as much as anything, and decent's not good enough.
Right.
And especially if you don't have the goodwill of Drew Brees could play 10 years, be phenomenal, and have a $50 million contract in year 11 and be decent, and he'll have his defenders. He's built up that goodwill with Saints fans. You can't do that as a new quarterback coming into a new team with that big price tag.
I mean, speaking of quarterbacks, we have the draft coming up in April. Now, there's a good draft class of quarterbacks. I know Atlanta's probably in the market for. Where do you see Atlanta in the draft early on right now? What's your mock position for Atlanta?
Well, what's interesting is after the Saints beat them, And then if the Jets beat the Patriots, which neither one of those are really big stretches.
Right.
I probably like the Patriots a little bit better than the Jets right now, but they would be 3 consecutive 7-10 seasons, 3 consecutive number 8 picks. Otherwise, they'd pick number 9. So they'll be top 10 again, but there's a pretty good chance they have their 3rd consecutive number 8 pick, which will get them in the shouting distance to trade up. I just don't think they'll be able to. My God, if you look at the teams that are there, I'm either going to have to send a fortune to Chicago, and they may want to keep that pick. Maybe I trade for Justin Fields. He's an Atlanta native. But you go number 2, Washington. You think Washington's not going to want a quarterback? Come on. New England at number 3. There's your competition for getting up to number 1. If I'm Chicago and I say I want to go ahead and keep Justin Fields, I can move back to 3, pick up another 2 first-round draft picks, and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and have 2 first-round draft picks.
Right.
Damn.
And if I'm the Bears, I'm not moving on from Justin Fields.
But it's a possibility. I mean, it's going to be really interesting. Arizona could decide to reset their quarterback contract at number 4. The Giants have 1 more year of Daniel Jones. He signed a big deal, but I think it was really only 2 years of really guaranteed money.
Yep.
Chargers are okay. Tennessee is not going to be all in on Will Levis. 8, you go Jets. The Jets, they could afford to go and get another quarterback too. So a quarterback might not slide past the Jets. They may try and say, listen, we need to make a run at this thing with Aaron Rodgers while we can. Let's get the best available player. 9, quarterback. 10 is Chicago again. 11, you're in the quarterback market. Minnesota is in the quarterback market. New Orleans could possibly
they're not. They're not drafting a quarterback. The Saints haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round since Archie Manning.
Archie Manning, man.
But Denver's definitely in the quarterback market. But you look at the top 3 teams. If Chicago doesn't move, and it's going to cost a fortune to get that pick, then if Chicago takes a quarterback, you're not getting Washington and New England out of the top 3. Just not going to happen.
So, Scott, if you're the GM of the Bears right now, today, season's over, do you move on from Justin Fields?
Make me an offer I can't refuse, and I'll keep Justin Fields. Otherwise, probably yes. I would probably see what I can get for Justin Fields, I think he's played his way into a first-round pick again, or equivalent of, a couple of second-rounders, a conditional, etc. I reset my quarterback contract with someone who is a better prospect, either Drake May or Caleb Williams will be thought of higher than Justin Fields was at the time. I save money in the next year because if I want to pick up Justin Fields' 5th-year contract, it's going to be $20-something million instead of having 4 years of cost control. And I've got another number 1 coming up at 10. I can go ahead and keep stacking my team. I can do some more things with that pick. So it's not like I'm just getting Caleb Williams. I could come out of this with Caleb Williams and 2 first-round picks.
I'm going to say this. Just to me, Justin Fields had started to show a growth in his entire game. The draft is a crapshoot. I don't care about whoever you talk. You want Drake May, Caleb Williams, whoever. We have seen the growth of Justin Fields in the National Football League. To me, to move on from Justin Fields, because in this draft, there's no sure thing. There's no Peyton Manning coming in this draft. Not a one. There's no one even close. Drake May, I watched Drake May at Carolina. I think Drake May, he has an opportunity like everyone else, but I don't think Drake May is going to be better than what Washington now has in Sam Howell, which I still think Sam Howell has the ability to become a starting quarterback in this league, and a good one. At one part, he was leading the league in passing.
If you look at Chicago, I mean, think about Chicago. Damn, 5,000 yards. Chicago's never had a 4,000-yard passer in their history. So if you're thinking about getting a Caleb Williams or a Drake May as your quarterback, I'm like, slow it down because they might not do well in Chicago. What you got with Justin Fields is a guy that's still young, and he needs more weapons. Right, if you give him this year, you got your Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in to go with DJ Moore. Now we got things cooking with Komet, tight end. There's no more quote unquote excuses anymore for Fields because now you have a decent No, get your O-line fixed as well, hopefully. But Caleb Williams, Mays, I mean, are they that much better than Fields as a Chicago Bear quarterback? I'm not quite sure. That's why I keep Fields for now, and I focus on my weapons.
I'm making this decision for where am I going to be in 3 years?
Okay.
Am I going to have to sign Justin Fields and a huge contract, or would I be better off with year 3 of a rookie contract of Caleb Williams? Now, I'm of the opinion that Caleb Williams and Drake May join Trevor Lawrence as the best quarterback prospects to come out since Indianapolis Colts. Help me out here.
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck. I think those are the best quarterback prospects to come out since Andrew Luck. So the term generational gets thrown around way too often. I start to twitch when I hear it now. It's like, okay, if there's 10 generational guys in every draft, what the hell does generational mean anymore? It gets used way too much. But if I say if I talk about 10 years as a generation of football players, we're knocking on that door of Andrew Luck, of these 3 guys being my top 3 guys of the last 10 years.
Right.
So if I believe that, and I've got the chance to get one of those guys, reset my quarterback contract, get a first-round pick for Justin Fields, who has improved but is still erratic as a passer.
Right.
It's tempting. And that's what's going to be so fascinating about the Bears, because like I said, they're just totally in the catbird seat. And meanwhile, the Panthers are hoping to God Bryce Young hits, because they gave up the house. I mean, DJ Moore, that other pick ended up being Jalen Carter that they gave away. DJ Moore, Jalen Carter, and Caleb Williams for Bryce Young. Ouch. It's okay if you hit,
right?
But by God, Bryce Young better hit.
So now let's say the Bears make that trade. Now I'm sitting. I need you to convince me, which quarterback should I take right now? You in the war room. You're the man.
I go Caleb Williams. I've got to get a good offer for Justin Fields, but I'm taking Caleb Williams number 1.
What separates him from Drake May?
I think the mobility, his playmaking on the run, what he can do off schedule, so to speak, I think is the buzzword now. You know, Aaron Rodgers throws the ball as well at the run as anybody I've ever seen. I remember when he carved up the Falcons in 2000. How was it? They were 13-3. I think it was 2011. Falcons were number 1 pick, 13-3, and I hadn't watched a lot of. This is a young Aaron Rodgers, and I'm watching him make throws when they hung 50 on the Falcons in the dome.
Yeah,
right.
I'm like, if someone was making plays like that on me on Madden, I'd be pissed. I'm like, this is a glitch. This is ridiculous. Caleb has some of that in him. He's pretty damn good, and May's got that Matt Stafford ability to flick a wrist, throw sideways, stand there in the pocket, and throw anywhere. He's a good athlete.
Right.
But those two are pretty darn good. And Dixon Way says, if Jaden Daniels falls, he ain't getting past the Falcons. I'll promise you that.
He ain't getting past the
Patriots. You want to talk about making who that nation angry, mad, upset. If the Falcons get Jalen Daniels, man,
you're going to have to get up to 4 and probably 3 to get Jaden Daniels. Unless it's the Bears and they come down to 3. Because they decide they don't want one of those top 2 quarterbacks.
So I know it's kind of early, Scott. So let me ask you this: who late in the first round or in later rounds, which quarterback prospects do you think have opportunity to be a steal in this draft?
There's a lot of guys talking Michael Penix right now, but the injuries there are just really concerning. He throws a nice ball. I mean, lefty from Washington, just throws a beautiful ball, but he's had shoulder injuries. He's had knee injuries. People talk J.J. McCarthy a little bit, but he hadn't even said he's coming out in this draft yet. So that's a possibility who could move up into the mid-first. Bo Nix is another guy that's getting talked about a lot. If I don't know how much you all watched him in the SEC. I went to Auburn.
I did. I watched him.
He was dreadful in the SEC.
That's why I'm saying I don't see all the love.
then at Oregon, he comes back and plays Georgia, and he looks dreadful at Oregon too. And then, playing out west, he puts up some really good numbers. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and wipe away my bias. Remember, Carlos, you might be biased, but doesn't mean you're wrong. But try and wipe away my bias. And all I see Bo Nix doing is throwing side to side to side to side.
Check down. He's a check down king. 5 yards to 80 for a touchdown. I mean,
I thought I was the only one. I was the only one.
Check Mobile.
Bo Nix love.
Y'all come and see me. Come over to Mobile. I'll be down there for the Senior Bowl again. Bo's going to be in Mobile, and I want to see him in a structure where he's forced to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. It could be very good for him. Who else will be down there? Was getting first-round talk for a while was Spencer Rattler. When he was at Oklahoma, he also became the guy most likely to get his ass beat by his teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And he was humbled, and they rave about him at South Carolina. And he's got the arm. He's got talent. So I'm looking forward to seeing him down there in Mobile as well. Because one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to watch how he interacts with every single player on the field.
Right.
Because I want to see – again, I've been at all-star games, high school all-star games, when, this top-rated quarterback, one of the centers grabbed the quarterback and put his ass up against the wall by his throat and said, if you say another word, I'm going to break your neck. Those are the kind of things you learn in person.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing – those are one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing about Spencer Rattler. How does he interact with his teammates down there?
And speaking of, I actually applied today for my credentials for the Senior Bowl. And I can't let you go because who that nation, they'll get on me. Got to ask you about a local kid from Tulane, Michael Pratt. What is your thoughts on Michael Pratt?
I haven't seen him as much, so incomplete. I don't want to spout a bunch of nonsense any more so than usual, but at least I can back my other nonsense. I haven't watched him yet.
Yeah. So will you be coming out with a draft article or anything breaking down the process?
I'll write it up some. I do on Fridays, I do an NFL show on Friday mornings at youtube.com/Scott Kennedy, where we do it's coast to coast football, and I do it with Nick Kendall. Nick had his first baby today. Congratulations, Nick.
Yeah, I was watching. Yeah, that's right. And congratulations.
But we do NFL shows on Friday. On my channel, we go every morning, and we'll talk draft from now until draft. But on some of those, there's a Falcons focus. Some of them, there's a Broncos focus. On Fridays, it's all NFL. So okay. We'll talk a lot. And then, if you come in when I post, I'll post probably 80 highlight videos from the Senior Bowl of the players that are down there. I'm all over the comments. So if you have a question or anything, let me know. But I'm not hard to find. Gotcha.
And Scott, so let everybody know where they can find you, your platforms and everything, please, sir.
Yeah, the big one for me is youtube.com/Scott Kennedy. That's where, and I know some people have already come in and subscribed and hit the like from this show. So thank you very much. Hell, my number one video on there is Trevor Penning. It's got over, I titled that one The Nastiest Guy in the Draft, and that was about attitude more than, blocking. As he's starting fights and slinging defensive linemen into his quarterback's knees and all that kind of stuff. But that got 400,000 views.
Wow.
So, the Saints are going to be all over the Senior Bowl. I'll be all over the Senior Bowl. And that's the best place to come find me.
Right. All right. Hey, well, family, listen, we about to get out of here. Again, we want to thank Scott for coming through, spending time with us. We really appreciate him sharing his knowledge with us. It's been an honor, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, everybody in the chat, black and red, black and gold, thank you all for being here. Hey, y'all already know it's going down this Sunday. It's Falcons, it's Saints. Neither one of them going to the playoffs, so it will be a great summer for Who Dat Nation if we beat the Falcons, and it'll be a great summer for the Falcons if they at least beat the Saints. But this is what's going to happen. If they fire
their head coach, that's more important to Falcons fans right now.
But Carlos and Scott, this is what's going to happen. This will be a same thing to happen. The Panthers upset the Buccaneers. Seattle loses. Green Bay loses. And the Falcons beat the Saints. That'll be the same thing to happen. I'm telling you.
Man, don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that on me.
They saw it too many times. Listen, family.
Put that kind of evil on me. It's nice. When I do these Broncos podcasts, they don't know how we've lived down here.
No, they don't.
I call them spoiled all the time. I'm
know.
like, you don't understand. And they got, well, Sean Payton only won 1 Super Bowl. Do you have any idea what the Saints were before Sean Payton? They had like 5 winning seasons in their history. And I can say that without malice.
I deal with it on the
Falcons
show.
are just as bad.
I got family members now who are crying about 7 and 10 seasons. Do y'all understand? They don't understand. We would have killed for 7 and 9
that was the
seasons.
high watermark in the 1980s when I was a kid.
I was high about the best. We had 8 and 8. The 8 and 8, man, we celebrate. You know?
Yeah.
So listen,
we get it. We feel your pain.
Understand. Yeah,
and it's a good rivalry. It's an underrated rivalry because again,
the best in the league.
Have been so poor throughout their histories. But Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Matt Ryan, Arthur Blank have helped elevate the status. It's just both teams are kind of stuck in that mediocrity right now. And I think a few of those, I think right now, what will be most important is a Monday announcement that the Falcons are calling a press conference to let people know. That's more important than this game. By even if the Bucs were to lose, the Falcons were to back their way into the playoffs, short of winning the next 3 games, I think Falcons fans in general would rather see Arthur Smith gone than the other scenarios.
Kind of the same feeling here, but we know he's not going nowhere. But again, Scott, thank you for being here. Thank everybody in the chat. Listen, I'm Dove17. This is the Keepin' It Real Who That Sports podcast. We're members of the Come On In Sports Network. We're growing bigger and better things are coming. That's Mr. Scott Kennedy. Hey, follow him on YouTube. Great insight as always. I'll see everybody Sunday on the Kickback. Remember, I will be live streaming that game. Also, shout out to my family members on the PSF app. If you don't have the PSF app, get it. It's a wonderful app. We got every team covered over there. Hey, I'm over there too, putting in work, baby. That's how we do. You got to put in the work. But listen, love y'all, everybody. Happy New Year to you. Stay safe. And look, we out of here. Good night, family.
Yeah.
Keeping it real with that sports pod. Legendary Coach Rod. Those 17. Let's rock. Who that? Boss kick. Black and gold. Let's go. First and goal from the 1. Best believe we go punch. Punching in. Get them punch. With them Saints. Watch us march. Down the field. Down your throat. Keeping it real. Who that sports. Breaking news. Interviews. Open lines just for you. Call in. Join in. Pale Nation. Just win. B.I. Mount Zion. Coach Green. Oh my. CJ. JV. Trick or trade. Jose.